Key town in Ukraine has fallen to Russia's army, which is drawing fresh efforts in Congress to win passage of a new aid package for Ukraine. Now, members of a centrist bipartisan group in the House of Representatives are proposing tying passage of those funds to strict provisions dealing with border security. For example, the proposal calls for $66 billion in aid for Ukraine, Israel, and Taiwan, suspending entry of illegal migrants in the U.S. and requiring authorities to detain and immediately expel illegal immigrants. Now, one of the members who has opposed more aid to Ukraine under certain conditions is the Republican Congressman Bob Good. He's the chairman of the House Freedom Caucus and joins us live here on the Hill once again. Congressman, thanks for being with us. Appreciate the time, sir, as always. So this bipartisan proposal, money for aid, money for Ukraine, money for Israel, suspend the entry of illegal migrants. What's wrong with that?
Well, I think it says a lot about many members of Congress. It seems as their top priority is money for other countries overseas that they want to borrow, by the way, from our kids and our grandkids. We need to move past the era of supplementals that aren't paid for, whether they're for foreign aid or whatever they might be for. But this seems to be many members of Congress' top priority. What about America's national security interests? What about securing our border, protecting our citizens, also protecting our fiscal security as Americans? And so I don't think this bill will get a majority of Republicans in the House. I certainly hope the Speaker does not take it up.
You say, so is it just offsets for you, Congressman? Like the $66 billion, if this were to be quote unquote paid for somehow, would you support that?
Well, paid for is not a theory. That's a reality that we can pay for. We can cut UN funding. We can cut IRS expansion. We can cut the COVID slush fund, the commerce slush fund. There's many examples of low-hanging fruit that we can cut, and that ought to be just a principle because our debt situation is unsustainable. What's also wrong with it is you cobble together these things that are unrelated. Most Americans and almost all Republicans support aid to Israel. But aid to Israel should not be held hostage to aid to Ukraine or for other particular concerns that are not related to Israel. Even aid to Israel ought to be paid for because Israel doesn't have $34 trillion in national debt, doesn't have a $200 billion deficit. And again, we can pay for it. Continuing to have supplementals that aren't paid for is a slippery slope. It never ends. We've got to change that. But with respect to Ukraine, I don't think there's a majority of Republicans who support that. I don't support more aid for Ukraine. I don't think
at all.
The case has been.
You don't support another dime?
I don't support more aid for Ukraine. Foreign policy issues are complex. They're uncertain. It's difficult to know exactly how they will turn out. However, what is certain is our own debt. What is certain, our own national security is compromised under this president. What is certain, again, is that everything that we do from a foreign aid standpoint ought to be paid for. But I don't know what the limit of U.S. involvement would be. I don't know what the end game or exit strategy is. I don't know what the long-term solution here is with these countries who will be border countries for hundreds of years to come. Ukraine is not a member of NATO. We're not sworn to defend them. Ukraine is not a democracy in the sense that we are as a constitutional republic. And so for those reasons, no, I don't support more aid for Ukraine. We've already sent $113 billion over there that we borrowed from our kids and grandkids.
We saw a congressman in the state of New York, Tom Suozzi, a Democrat, win there. And he ran on a campaign of what needs to happen at the southern border. That was a seat that was flipped from red to blue. Axios is reporting now that President Biden, before the State of the Union, could do the following. They say, quote, one bold move that Biden has considered, we're told, is an executive order that would dramatically staunch the record flow of migrants into the Southwest. This could even happen in the 2 weeks before the address, allowing Biden to say he took action while Republicans just talk. I know you've passed H.R. 2 in the House, Congressman, but that's going nowhere. And I wonder, after watching Tom Suozzi, a Democrat, win in New York, if there's some second guessing that you guys need to get something on the books as it relates to the southern border.
Well, I'm glad you brought up the president because the president immediately when he took office executed some 60 executive orders that reversed intentionally the border security policies that were in place under President Trump, which were largely securing our southern border. He did it on purpose. He stopped the wall. He stopped Remain in Mexico. He reinstated catch and release. He stopped detaining individuals at the border.
But looking forward, what are you going to do? Like, I understand what happened in the past.
Well, but what the president can and should do is to reverse those executive orders. He's right. He could secure the border today if he wanted to. This is a lawless president who's not following the laws that are on the books. To your point, Congress, you have to get the House and the Senate and the White House to agree together for Congress to take action. I want Congress to take action, as I've noted with the Senate passing H.R. 2. But the president can take it upon himself. What the president wants is political cover for having opened our border and allowed 10 million illegals to come into the country. He doesn't want to end it. He did it on purpose. He's not confused. Even Biden's not confused about
But
his
Democrats say
policies.
Republicans just want political cover for Donald Trump until he potentially gets reelected.
Even Biden knows that he opened the border. Even he knows there's 10 million illegals who've come in because of his policies. He ought to change it. I would support him changing it. But what he wants is political cover going into an election year.
Congressman, I got to leave it there. I'm sure we'll talk to you again soon. Congressman Bob Good, State of Virginia, head of the House Freedom Caucus. Thank you, sir. Thank you for watching. And make sure you go to joinnn.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.